Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Secrets. Tonight, we are going to travel somewhere very close, closer than any star, closer than any ocean. We are going to travel into the quiet, extraordinary story of you. Did you know that of all the creatures who have ever lived on this earth, the ancient whales, the towering trees, the quick-winged birds, only one has ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what was looking back. Only one has dreamed of places it has never been. Only one has wept at music made of air and silence. Tonight, we are going to rest together inside the gentle mystery of what makes a human being so wonderfully, softly, remarkably different. Let the warmth of that settle around you like a blanket. You are something the universe has never made before and never will again. Let's begin. Somewhere in the quiet history of this planet, something shifted. It happened slowly, the way morning light arrives, not all at once, but in a gradual brightening that you almost don't notice until everything is golden. And what shifted was a brain, a particular kind of brain, held inside a particular kind of skull, carried on two legs across the soft grasses and cool stones of an ancient world. You share most of your DNA with every living thing on Earth. You carry within you the same ancient instructions that help a mushroom breathe and a butterfly find flowers. About 60% of your genes are shared with a fruit fly. Around 85% matches zebrafish. You and a chimpanzee share nearly 99% of your DNA. And yet, here you are, lying still and listening to words drifting through the air, understanding each one, feeling something stir gently inside you. That 1% makes an extraordinary difference. It is not any single thing that makes humans different. It is the way many small things came together, like drops of rain finding each other on a leaf, slowly pooling into something new. One of those things is the size of your brain, not just in total, but in proportion to your body. Humans have unusually large brains for creatures of our size. The part of the brain that sits just behind your forehead, the frontal lobe, is particularly expanded in humans. It is the part that plans, imagines, considers, and dreams. There is a structure in the human brain called the prefrontal cortex. It takes up a much larger portion of our brain than it does in any other animal. This is the part that lets you imagine tomorrow. A dog lives very much in the present moment, the smell of now, the warmth of now. But you can picture next Tuesday. You can worry about next year. You can imagine a place you have never been and feel something about it. That capacity to travel in time inside your own mind is one of the quietest and most remarkable things about being human. Language came from this, not just calls and signals, the way birds sing to each other in the early morning, but words that carry ideas. The word yesterday, the word dream, the word maybe. These words exist because human brains develop the ability to hold abstract things, to name them, to pass them from one mind to another. Language is, in a way, the bridge between one human soul and another. Humans are born with less ability to survive on their own than almost any other animal. A foal can walk within hours of being born. A baby sea turtle scrambles toward the ocean almost immediately. But a human baby is helpless for years. This long helplessness is not a weakness. It is the space in which learning happens. The human brain continues developing for longer than any other animal's brain. A human brain is not fully formed until around 25 years of age. This extended childhood is part of what allows such extraordinary complexity to build up. There is something called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself in response to experience. Every time you learn something new, small connections between brain cells grow and strengthen. Every time you practice kindness or play music or find your way somewhere new, your brain is quietly, gently rewiring itself. You are not the same inside that you were 10 years ago. Your brain has been listening, responding, growing all this time. Sleep is part of this too. While you rest, and you're resting now or nearly, your brain does quiet, careful work. It consolidates what you learned. It sorts and files experiences. The sleeping brain is not a resting brain. It is a working brain, moving through chambers of memory, tidying and storing and preparing. You are not just lying still. Something gentle and industrious is happening inside you right now. Humans walk upright, fully, consistently, naturally, on two legs. This is unusual in the animal world. Walking on two legs freed our hands, and free hands became tools. The hands and the brain grew together over time, each shaping the other. The thumb, particularly. Humans have what is called a precision grip, the ability to hold something delicately between thumb and forefinger. This made needles possible, paintbrushes, pens, the small, careful acts of making things. Tool use exists in other animals. Crows use twigs to extract insects. Otters crack shellfish on stones. But humans make tools to make other tools. And this layering of complexity, this building of one idea on top of another, is something quite rare. A crow solves a problem. A human builds a system. The difference is slow and gentle, but it adds up into something extraordinary over time. Cooking is part of what made us human. When ancient humans learned to use fire to prepare food, digestion became easier, and the body needed less energy for that process. More energy became available for the brain. There is a quiet feedback loop here. Fire led to better nutrition, which led to larger brains, which led to more complex use of fire. Warmth and thought grew together. The human gut is shorter than you might expect for an animal of our size. Other primates with similar body weight have much longer digestive systems suited to breaking down raw plant material. Our shorter gut reflects a long relationship with cooked food. You carry inside you the legacy of ancient evenings around ancient fires. Humans have unusually white eyes. Almost every other primate has dark irises and dark sclera. The white part of the eye is hidden. But in humans, the white surrounds the iris clearly, making it easy for others to follow where our gaze is directed. This seems to be an adaptation for communication. You can look across a room and know exactly where someone else is looking just by following their eyes. This shared gaze, this ability to attend to the same thing together, is one of the foundations of human cooperation. There is a concept called joint attention, the ability to share focus on something with another person. Watch a baby, and around 9 months old, something remarkable begins to happen. They start to follow an adult's gaze. They start to point, not to get something, but to share something, to say, "Look at this with me." No other animal points quite the way humans do. It is one of the earliest signs of the social mind waking up. If you feel like sharing what topic you'd love to hear next on the Sleepy Science channel, feel free to leave a comment. it helps this little channel find its way to more people who need a gentle night like this one. The human voice is capable of producing a wider range of sounds than almost any other creature. The larynx in humans sits lower in the throat than in other primates, creating a larger resonating chamber. This makes speech possible, but it also means humans can choke on food more easily than other animals. It was a trade. The body gave up a little safety for the gift of language. That exchange, quiet and ancient as it is, feels meaningful somehow, like the voice was worth the risk. Facial expressions in humans are extraordinarily nuanced. The human face has around 43 muscles, and many of them are dedicated specifically to expression. You can read a tiny flicker of feeling in another person's face, a slight tightening around the eyes, a softening of the mouth. We are exquisitely tuned to each other's feelings. This emotional literacy, this ability to understand what someone else is experiencing just by looking at them, is one of the gentler forms of human intelligence. Humans feel embarrassment, a self-conscious emotion that requires you to be aware of how you appear to others and to care about it. Animals do not seem to experience this. Embarrassment requires what psychologists call a theory of mind, the understanding that other people have thoughts and perspectives of their own, different from yours. You carry an entire imagined world of other people's inner lives inside your head. That is remarkable and also sometimes exhausting, which is why rest is so important. Humans cry emotional tears. Other animals produce tears to protect their eyes. But the weeping that comes with grief, or with being moved by music, or with relief, that is something particular to us. It is not fully understood, but there is something tender in it. The idea that human feelings can become so large they overflow through the eyes. Let that be quiet for a moment. Let that softness settle. The world outside is still now. Whatever sounds reach you from far away, a car, a breeze, a branch settling, are small and distant, like sounds at the edge of water. You can let them go. Let your breath slow just a little more. You are safe here, and we are only going deeper into this soft, remarkable story of what you are. Humans are extraordinarily social animals, not just social in the way a herd of deer moves together or a shoal of fish turns in unison, but social in a deeper, more interior way. Humans form bonds that persist across time and distance. You can love someone you have not seen in years. You can feel grief for a person who lived centuries ago. You can feel connected to a writer whose words you read alone in a quiet room. This capacity for long, layered, imagined relationship is one of the most distinctly human things there is. The human nervous system is wired for connection. When you feel isolated, the brain responds with signals very similar to physical pain. Loneliness is not just an emotion. It registers in the body as a kind of hurt. This is because, for most of human history, being separated from the group was genuinely dangerous. The social bond was survival. The warmth you feel near people you trust is ancient and real, running deep through you like water through rock. Humans have culture, and culture accumulates. This is called cumulative culture, and it is something scientists believe is unique to humans. Each generation does not start from scratch. It builds on what was learned before. A bird builds a nest the same way its ancestors built nests. A human engineer builds on the work of every engineer who came before. The knowledge stacks and grows. You are standing on the shoulders of everyone who ever thought carefully about anything. Language is the vehicle for this accumulation. Before writing, there were stories. Before stories, there were calls and gestures and the beginnings of shared meaning. Writing is only about 5,000 years old, a tiny moment in human history. For most of the time humans have existed, knowledge was passed through voice, through story, through the warm presence of one person teaching another. In a way, every story ever told is part of this same ancient river of sharing. There are around 7,000 languages spoken on Earth today. Each one is a different way of organizing thought and experience. Some languages have many words for types of snow. Some have specific words for the feeling of sunlight filtering through leaves. Some have no word for the color blue as a separate category from green. Language shapes perception gently. The words available to you influence what you notice. Learning another language is like putting on a different pair of eyes. The human capacity for music is deeply rooted in biology. When you hear a rhythm, your body responds. Your heartbeat can synchronize with it. Your muscles want to move. This is called entrainment, and it happens below conscious thought. Music bypasses a great deal of mental filtering and speaks directly to something older and quieter inside the brain. A lullaby works on a very young baby before they can understand a single word. Rhythm and melody reach in and do something soft and direct. Humans are the only animals known to have music in the sense we understand it. Organized sound meant to be shared, meant to carry feeling, meant for no purpose other than the experience itself. Other animals make sound for territory, for mating, for alarm. But sitting in silence and listening to something beautiful for no practical reason at all, that seems to be distinctly, quietly human. Art follows the same pattern. The oldest known human art, small red marks on cave walls in Spain, is at least 65,000 years old. Before agriculture, before cities, before writing, before so much of what we think of as civilization, there were human beings pressing their hands against cave walls and drawing the outline of their own presence. Here I am. I was here. Something in that gesture reaches across all those thousands of years and still feels familiar. There are ochre-covered stones from a cave in South Africa that are over 70,000 years old. They seem to have been used for some kind of decorative or symbolic purpose. The human desire to mark, to beautify, to make meaning out of shape and color. It is ancient. It runs in you too, even if the last thing you made was something small. The impulse is the same. Humans have a strong and unusual relationship with the future. We plan for things that are decades away. We plant trees whose shade we will never sit in. We write books for readers not yet born. This orientation toward the future, this willingness to invest in what is distant and imagined, seems to be a human specialty. It requires imagination, and it requires caring about what happens after you are gone. That kind of love for the future is one of the more quietly extraordinary human traits. And just like that warmth we were talking about, if this story is bringing you some peace, you might want to check out the rest of our playlist on the Sleepy Science channel. There are more nights like this one waiting for you there. A small like on the video helps more people find their way here too. No pressure, just warmth. The default mode network is a system of brain regions that becomes active when you are not focused on any particular task. When you are daydreaming, resting, reflecting. It is sometimes called the resting state, but it is far from idle. This is when the brain weaves together experiences, considers the self, and imagines other minds. The default mode network is involved in creativity and in the quiet, drifting thinking that sometimes produces unexpected insight. The mind wandering is doing real work. The mind at rest is not empty. It is full of a different kind of activity. Humans have a strong sense of fairness. Experiments show that people will sometimes refuse a financial reward if they perceive it to be unfair, even if refusing means getting nothing at all. This rejection of unfairness, even at personal cost, is unusual in the animal world. It seems to reflect a deep, possibly innate sense that relationships and social contracts matter more than immediate gain. Fairness is not just a rule humans follow. It feels like something. It feels important in the body. There is something called the empathy circuit, a network of brain regions that activates when you observe another person experiencing something. When you watch someone stub their toe, a small echo of that experience ripples through your own nervous system. You do not just understand their pain intellectually, you feel a quiet resonance of it. This is why fiction works. This is why a story about a stranger can make you cry. The line between self and other is thinner in the human brain than it might appear. Humans are capable of what is called altruistic behavior, doing something to help another person at a cost to themselves, with no expectation of return. This goes beyond reciprocity, beyond what you might expect from a purely strategic calculation. There is something in the human system that finds meaning in giving. People who volunteer report higher levels of well-being. Helping others has a quiet warmth that feeds back into the helper. Generosity is, in some gentle and biological way, its own reward. The room around you is very still. If there is any sound, it is far away, soft as a memory. Your body is heavier now, more settled, more at ease. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just this voice, just this soft exploration of the extraordinary creature you are. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw go loose. We are in no hurry at all. The human immune system is one of the most complex systems in the body. A vast and intricate network of cells and signals that works continuously to protect you. But beyond the mechanics of it, there is something interesting about the way humans and their immune systems have evolved together with other living things. You carry within you about 37 trillion human cells, and you carry a similar number of microbial cells, bacteria, fungi, viruses that live in and on your body, most of them peacefully, many of them helpfully. The microbiome, the community of microbes living in your gut, influences far more than digestion. There is a growing body of understanding that the gut and brain communicate constantly through a long nerve called the vagus nerve and through chemical signals carried in the blood. Mood, energy, even aspects of cognition seem to be influenced by what is happening in the gut. The phrase gut feeling turns out to have a kind of biological truth to it. You are more of an ecosystem than a single self. Humans sweat in a way that is quite unusual among mammals. Most animals cool themselves through panting or through limited sweating on paws or surfaces with little hair. but humans can cool the whole body through sweat evaporating from the skin. This made humans remarkable long-distance runners. Not fast. A human cannot outrun a horse in a sprint. But a human can pursue prey across hours of heat and distance in a way that few animals can match. This persistence hunting is thought to have been practiced by early humans, running in the heat of the day until the pursued animal collapsed from overheating. You are, among other things, a long-distance animal. Endurance is written into your legs, your breath, your sweat glands. The human body running is a body doing something it was shaped for over millions of years. That feeling of settling into a long rhythm, the breath finding its pace, the mind going quiet. There is something very ancient in that. Human feet are extraordinary structures. The arch of the foot acts as a spring, storing and releasing energy with each step. The big toe is aligned with the others, designed for forward propulsion rather than grasping the way primate toes are. When you walk barefoot on soft ground, grass, sand, cool earth, your foot is reading the surface through thousands of nerve endings, making tiny adjustments, communicating with your balance systems. A walk is a conversation between your body and the ground. The human hand, as we touched on earlier, is a marvel of fine motor control. But what is perhaps even more interesting is the way the hand and the brain co-evolved. The parts of the brain that map to the hand are disproportionately large. The fingers alone take up more neural real estate than the entire back. Making things, touching things, shaping things. These are deeply brain-involving activities. There is a reason that working with the hands feels grounding. It is close to the center of how humans think. Humans have the longest childhood of any primate, not just in years, but in the quality of that childhood. The amount of play, the amount of teaching, the amount of time spent in the company of adults who are not focused on survival, but on transmission. The campfire, the kitchen table, the bedtime story. These are human inventions in a sense. Spaces and rituals for passing knowledge and warmth from one generation to the next. Play is not frivolous in humans. Play in childhood is how the brain rehearses social situations, practices emotional regulation, learns cause and effect, and discovers the rules of systems. A child building a tower of blocks and knocking it over is doing physics. A child playing pretend is developing theory of mind. Play is serious work wearing light clothing. Humans are extraordinarily curious. Curiosity in humans does not switch off with adulthood the way it tends to in many animals. An adult human will spend time solving a puzzle with no reward. We read about distant galaxies. We wonder about the past. We sit quietly and ask questions that have no practical answer. This open, searching, wondering quality is part of what has made human knowledge accumulate so steadily. Curiosity is a kind of love, a leaning toward what is unknown, a wish to bring it into the light. And if this quiet wondering is something you love, that leaning toward the curious, then this channel was made for you. Take a look at the playlist when you wake up, or leave us a little comment tonight. It genuinely means a great deal to this small corner of the world. Humans have what is called episodic memory, the ability to remember specific events as experienced from a personal point of view, not just knowing that something happened, but being able to mentally return to it, to see it again, to feel something of what you felt then, the smell of rain on a specific afternoon, the quality of light on a particular morning, the sound of a voice you have not heard in years. This richness of personal memory, the way the past stays alive inside you, is one of the most intimate parts of being human. There is also what researchers call mental time travel, the way human memory and imagination work together to let you move freely through time in your mind. You can return to the past or project yourself into the future with equal ease. No other animal shows clear evidence of this kind of mental movement. When you lie here and drift through memories or imagine tomorrow's morning, you are doing something quite uniquely human. The mind is a time machine, quiet and soft and always available. Humans sleep differently from most mammals. You have a sleep cycle of roughly 90 minutes, moving through several stages including deep, slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, the stage associated with vivid dreams. During REM sleep, the brain is almost as active as when you're awake. The eyes move beneath closed lids. The body is still, but the mind is somewhere else entirely. Dreams may be part of how the brain processes emotional experiences and consolidates memory. They are not random noise. They seem to mean something, even if we are still learning what. Every human culture has dreams, and every culture has something to say about them. In some traditions, dreams are messages. In others, they are the wandering of the soul. In modern neuroscience, they are complex cognitive events. Whatever framework you use, dreams are part of the human experience as far back as we can trace it. Ancient Egyptian texts describe dreams. Ancient Greek temples were built for dream incubation. People would sleep inside them, hoping for healing visions. You are part of something very old when you close your eyes tonight. Human beings are the only species known to have religion and ritual, to perform ceremonies not strictly for survival, but for meaning, for connection to something larger than the individual. Whether you hold religious beliefs or not, the capacity for this kind of meaning-making seems to be part of how human minds are structured. Ritual creates continuity. It marks the passage of time. It says, "This moment is different. This moment matters. We are here together." There is something in ritual that the body and mind respond to very deeply. You are still here, breathing slowly, the night gathered softly around you. Perhaps your eyes are already heavy. Perhaps you are already somewhere between waking and the first quiet edges of sleep. Either is fine. The story will be here, a soft thread you can follow or let go as you like. Humans have a remarkable relationship with beauty. The experience of something being beautiful, a piece of music, a landscape, a line of poetry, a mathematical equation that resolves in an unexpected way, produces measurable responses in the brain. Dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in motivation and reward, is released. Beauty is not a luxury. It is something the brain is built to notice and respond to. There is a concept called awe, the feeling you get when you encounter something vast and complex that temporarily overwhelms your usual way of making sense of the world, standing at the edge of a great canyon. Looking up at a sky full of stars, hearing a piece of music so large it seems to contain everything. Awe has measurable effects on the human body and mind. It tends to reduce self-focused thinking. It expands the sense of time. It makes people feel smaller in a way that is not frightening, but comforting. The way being held is comforting. Awe is good for humans in quiet, measurable ways. Stars in particular seem to call something out in humans. Every civilization that has ever existed has watched the sky. The names we gave to stars and constellations, Orion, the Pleiades, the Southern Cross, are among the oldest human knowledge we have. Long before writing, people were memorizing the sky, reading it for navigation, for seasons, for planting, for meaning. The sky was the first library, and something in us still responds to it, even now, even far from any field or ocean, looking up through glass at a few dim lights. The human sense of smell is often underestimated. Humans can detect over 1 trillion different scents. The olfactory system, the smell system, is one of the most ancient parts of the brain and connects directly to areas involved in memory and emotion, bypassing some of the processing that other senses go through. This is why a smell can bring back a memory more vividly than a photograph sometimes. The smell of bread or cut grass or rain on dry earth. These reach something older than words inside you. Humans have a strong aesthetic sense, opinions about what is beautiful, what is harmonious, what is right. These preferences are partly cultural and partly seem to be shared across cultures. The preference for certain symmetries, for faces with particular proportions, for landscapes with both open space and shelter. Some of these seem to be built quite deeply into the human perceptual system. Beauty is not entirely in the eye of the beholder. Some of it is in the architecture of the brain. The color of the sky at dusk, that particular shade of deep blue or amber at the horizon, produces a physiological response in humans that seems to be connected to our evolutionary past. For most of human history, that color meant it was time to return to camp, to gather around warmth, to feel safe. The brain still registers it. Something in you at dusk knows it is time to rest. Humans have a startle reflex, an automatic full-body response to sudden loud noise that is present at birth and cannot be suppressed by conscious effort. But alongside this reflex, humans have an extraordinary ability to regulate emotion over time. The prefrontal cortex can modulate the responses of deeper, more reactive structures. You can feel afraid and choose, slowly, how to respond. You can feel anger and decide what to do with it. This space between feeling and action, this little gap in which choice lives, is one of the quieter freedoms of being human. Humans are among the very few animals known to recognize themselves in mirrors. This ability, called mirror self-recognition, appears in human babies around 18 months of age. It requires a sense of self, an understanding that the image in the mirror is you and not another creature. Great apes, dolphins, and elephants also show this ability. It seems to be connected to self-awareness, to the experience of having an inner life that is yours and recognized as yours. The experience of being a self, of having an interior life, a sense of I, is perhaps the deepest mystery in all of human biology. There is something it is like to be you, the redness of red, the pain of pain, the feeling of wonder. These are not just processes happening in the brain. There is an experiencer of those processes. Where that experience comes from, how physical brain activity produces felt awareness, is a question scientists and philosophers have been sitting with for a very long time. It is not a question that needs answering tonight. It is enough simply to notice it, to gently be aware that there is something it is like to be you, lying here, quiet, alive, And if you'd like to keep exploring these gentle mysteries, the playlist is there whenever you're ready. We add new stories often. This is a small, quiet community of curious, restful people, and you're welcome here anytime. Humans weep not just in sadness, but in joy. Tears come at weddings and reunions as much as at funerals. They come during beautiful music. They come when something overwhelms the system in a positive direction, when meaning gets too large for ordinary emotion to hold. Psychologists call these tears of elevation, a response to witnessing something deeply good. The fact that humans can be moved to tears by generosity or courage or beauty says something about how much these things matter to us at a very deep level. Laughter is another distinctly human behavior, though other primates do have something like it. Human laughter is social. It happens far more often in the presence of others than alone. It is contagious. It signals safety. When you hear genuine laughter, something in you responds before you have even understood why. The brain reads the sound of laughter as a signal that the environment is safe, that the people nearby are not a threat, that something light and good is nearby. Humor, the ability to find something funny, particularly incongruity and surprise, requires a fairly sophisticated set of cognitive abilities. You have to hold one expectation and then suddenly have it replaced by something unexpected. The brain registers the gap between expected and actual, and in the right conditions, that gap produces delight. Comedy is, in a way, a form of surprise with a soft landing. Humans tell each other stories, not just to inform, to entertain, to comfort, to make sense of things, to feel less alone. Research suggests that when a person hears a well-told story, their brain activity begins to synchronize with the brain activity of the storyteller. Listening to a story is a form of neural synchrony, two minds moving into alignment through narrative. Every story ever told is a kind of bridge, and you, lying here, listening, you are on one end of a bridge that extends through this voice into something warm and reaching toward you. The night is very quiet now, even if there are sounds in your world, soft sounds, distant sounds. They are only texture, like the pattern on a blanket. They don't disturb, they are part of the gentleness. Let your body feel heavy and warm. Let your thoughts come and go without catching any of them. The story will carry you. Humans are deeply attuned to the natural world in ways that sometimes get forgotten in modern life. The nervous system responds measurably to nature. Blood pressure drops, cortisol decreases, the breath slows when humans are surrounded by trees, water, open sky. This is not just preference, it seems to be wired in. Researchers call it biophilia, a love of living systems, an affinity for the natural world that runs through human biology like a root system. There is a particular smell, petrichor, that is the scent of rain on dry earth. It is produced by certain bacteria releasing compounds when wet, combined with oils from plants absorbed into soil. Humans across cultures tend to find this smell deeply pleasant. Something in the human nose, in the human memory, associates that smell with water, with relief, with abundance after dryness. Your response to petrichor is ancient and biological and beautiful. The forest has its own particular quality of light, green, dappled, moving. Research in Japan and elsewhere has studied what they call forest bathing, the simple act of being in a forest without any particular goal. Not hiking, not exercising, just being present. The effects on the human body and mind are measurable and significant. Something about trees, their scale, their quiet, their air, their particular quality of silence. It speaks to something deep in the human system that remembers being here before, even if the individual person has not been. Water has a similar effect. The sound of moving water, a stream, a light rain, waves, has measurable calming effects on the nervous system. White noise machines mimic this because the effect is reliable and strong. Humans lived near water for most of their existence, following rivers, settling near springs, finding shores. The sound of water is the sound of safety in the oldest parts of the brain. You can let that sound, if you imagine it now, do its work on you. The feeling of sunlight on skin, the warmth of it, triggers the production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in feelings of contentment and calm. The body also begins producing vitamin D, which plays roles in mood, immunity, and bone health. Morning light in particular has strong regulatory effects on the body's internal clock. The first light of day, reaching the eyes, signals the whole system to wake. And the fading of light in the evening, which you may feel echoing now, even in this quiet space, signals the same system to ease down, to wind inward, to prepare for rest. Humans have an internal clock, the circadian rhythm, that runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle, tracking the rotation of the earth. This clock influences when you feel alert, when you feel sleepy, when hunger rises and falls, when certain hormones peak. It is not just a single clock in a single place in the brain. There are circadian clocks in almost every cell in the body, all synchronized with the master clock in a small region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. You are, in a sense, a creature made of many synchronized clocks, all ticking gently together. Melatonin is the molecule most associated with this rhythm. It begins to rise in the evening, signaling that darkness is arriving and sleep should follow. Its production is suppressed by light, particularly by the blue wavelength light that screens emit. When you put away the screens and move toward darkness and warmth, you are working with this ancient system, not against it. Your body knows what to do. It has been doing this for a very long time. The temperature of the body drops slightly at the onset of sleep. The hands and feet warm as blood moves to the surface, a kind of redistribution that helps the core cool. If your feet feel warm under the covers right now, that is your body doing exactly what it is supposed to do, following a rhythm older than any alarm clock. Warmth at the extremities, cooling at the core, the architecture of rest. Breathing slows as you approach sleep. The breath becomes longer, more shallow, the gaps between breaths a little more extended. If you notice your breath right now, without changing it, just noticing, it may already have found this slower rhythm. The body knows where it is going. You don't need to do anything. You only need to let it happen. The transition between waking and sleep is called hypnagogia. It is a liminal state, a threshold place, where the boundary between conscious thought and dreaming begins to blur. Images may appear behind closed eyes. Sounds may seem to come from nowhere. A sudden falling sensation may pass through the body, called a hypnic jerk, a gentle muscle twitch that startles you briefly back toward waking before the current of sleep carries you under again. These are normal and interesting. The brain in the process of letting go. And it's in this very space, this edge between knowing and dreaming, that a quiet reminder feels right. If you find comfort here, tell someone. Share this channel with a friend who needs a soft night. Leave a small note in the comments. It means more than you know to a small channel like this one. The brain during sleep passes through stages. Stage 1 and 2 are lighter. The body relaxing, the mind beginning to release its grip on the day. Stage 3 is deep sleep, slow waves, low activity, the body in its most profound rest. Then comes REM, rapid eye movement, where dreams live. These stages cycle through the night, each cycle lasting roughly 90 minutes. The proportions shift as the night goes on. More deep sleep early, more REM sleep later toward morning. Early sleep is for the body's restoration. Later sleep is more for the mind's. In deep sleep, the glymphatic system, a kind of cleaning system in the brain, becomes particularly active. Cerebrospinal fluid moves through channels around brain cells, washing away metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day. Sleep is the brain's maintenance window. The thought of your brain quietly cleaning itself, renewing itself while you rest. There is something reassuring about that. You are being taken care of right now, even as you lie still. Growth hormone is released primarily during deep sleep. In children, this is part of the literal building of the body. Bones growing, muscles strengthening, the whole architecture of the self under quiet construction. In adults, growth hormone continues to play a role in repair and renewal. Sleep is not passive. Sleep is when the body says, "Now we rebuild." Dreams in REM sleep are often vivid and emotionally rich, but the muscles of the body are paralyzed, a phenomenon called REM atonia. This is thought to prevent you from physically acting out your dreams. The brain is doing something elaborate and active, but the body is kept still and safe. Somewhere in the deepest layers of sleep, you're having experiences, and the body holds you gently in place while that happens. Certain sounds are almost universally soothing to humans. Low, continuous tones, the sound of breath, the sound of a human voice, reading quietly in a warm room. You are already surrounded by some of these, and whatever sound this voice makes as it moves through the air toward you, let it carry you a little further toward that soft, safe edge. You are doing beautifully. There is nothing to achieve here, no destination, no test, no moment you need to arrive at in any particular way. You are simply here, and the night is simply here, and everything is exactly as gentle as it needs to be. The human voice carries extraordinary amounts of information. Before a single word is understood, the brain has already read the tone, the pace, the warmth or coolness of a voice, and formed conclusions about the emotional state of the speaker. You know, before you understand whether a voice is trustworthy, this rapid reading of social signals is embedded deeply in the auditory system. A voice you trust can settle your nervous system just by existing. The feeling of being spoken to kindly is a physical experience, not just an idea. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding hormone. It is released during social touch, during moments of warmth and connection, during acts of trust between people. But it is also released during certain kinds of listening, when you feel genuinely heard, when a voice reaches you and seems to know something of what you are carrying. You do not need physical presence to receive some of that softening. Something in the quality of connection, even at a distance, even through words, can carry it. The skin is the largest organ of the human body. It is not a simple barrier. It is a complex, dynamic interface between you and the world. It is full of nerve endings that register pressure, temperature, texture, pain, and pleasure. When something warm rests against the skin, it signals safety to the nervous system. The weight of a blanket carries information, not just warmth, but a kind of gentle pressure that the brain reads as held, contained, safe. This is part of why a blanket in the evening feels like more than just warmth. It is, in a quiet way, a kind of embrace. Touch is one of the first senses to develop in human development, and possibly the last to fade. Premature babies who are held show better developmental outcomes than those who are not. Gentle touch slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure, reduces cortisol. In adult life, the nervous system continues to respond to touch with these same settling signals. Being touched gently on the hand, the shoulder, can reduce the perception of pain. You are wired, deeply and biologically, to be soothed by gentle contact. The human heart beats about 100,000 times a day. Every beat is a small, coordinated act of many thousands of cells working together in precise sequence. The rhythm of the heartbeat is not perfectly regular. It varies slightly from beat to beat in a healthy heart, a variation called heart rate variability. Higher heart rate variability is associated with better stress regulation, greater emotional flexibility, and healthier cardiovascular function. The heart, in a sense, is most healthy when it has room to breathe, when its rhythm is responsive rather than rigidly fixed. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, as opposed to the fight or flight system. Even a few long breaths shift the body toward calm. The vagus nerve runs from the brainstem down through the heart and lungs and into the gut, carrying signals of safety or danger in both directions. When you breathe slowly, you are sending a message down this nerve that everything is well. The body receives that message and softens in response. The parasympathetic state, the calm state, is when the body does most of its maintenance. Digestion runs well, immune function is supported, cell repair is prioritized. The body in rest is not wasting time. It is doing the work that stress and activity postpone. Every moment you spend genuinely calm is a moment of renewal. Lying here, breathing slowly, you're giving something very real to your body. The eyes, when closed, still register light, particularly red wavelengths which pass through the eyelid. This is why a room with warm amber light feels easier to settle into than bright white light. Candlelight, for most of human history, was the light of evening. Amber, flickering, warm. The brain associates those wavelengths with safety and the end of the day. A warm light before sleep, even now, speaks to something old and comfortable inside you. Sound and smell bypass the thalamus, the brain's relay station for most sensory information, more directly than vision or touch. This means that sound and smell can reach the amygdala, the emotional processing center, very quickly, before the thinking brain has had time to process what is happening. This is partly why a smell or a particular song can produce an emotion before you have thought about why. These senses speak to something old and quick in the brain, something that was reading signals long before language developed. The night itself has a particular quality of silence, not total silence, but the layering down of sounds that belongs to darkness. In human history, night was a time of rest and shelter. The fire was there, the others were near. The sounds of the night, insects, wind, distant water, were the sounds of safety rather than danger when everything was in its right place. The silence of night, when it is a safe silence, carries peace. You may feel that now, the particular quality of being rightly inside the dark, protected and still. Something worth noting, gently, quietly, is that this little channel tries to offer exactly this, a safe kind of dark, a protective quiet. If you enjoy resting here, the playlist has more of this, and leaving a comment or a small like is a way of adding your warmth to this little gathering. No hurry, just whenever feels right. Humans have a concept of home, a place where the nervous system recognizes it is safe to fully let down. This concept is partly physical. The body reads familiar smells, familiar temperatures, familiar sounds as safety signals and relaxes accordingly. But it is also partly interior. You can be at home inside yourself. The nervous system can find a home in its own quietness, in its own breath, in the familiar rhythm of being alive and still and breathing slowly in the dark. You are home right now in that sense. You are in the place where the body knows it can rest. Humans dream in color, though many people remember their dreams as colorless. Research suggests that before color television, a significant proportion of people reported dreaming in black and white. After color TV became widespread, color dreaming became far more common. The brain seems to build its dream imagery partly from the visual experience available to it during waking life. In a small way, this is evidence of how plastic, how responsive, how shaped by experience the human brain truly is. Even your dreams are a portrait of your life. The process of forgetting is as active as the process of remembering. Memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction, rebuilt from fragments each time it is accessed. And sleep plays an active role in both strengthening important memories and letting go of less important ones. The brain during sleep sorts, decides, keeps, and releases. Forgetting is not failure. It is part of the maintenance, part of the cleaning. The brain in sleep is choosing what to keep and what to gently let go of, making room for what comes next. Whatever you are carrying from today, any weight of thought, any unfinished feeling, any small irritation or large question, you can set it down now. The brain is already beginning to sort it for you. By morning, something about it will be different, lighter or clearer or simply farther away. You don't have to solve anything tonight. Tonight is only for resting deeper now. You can feel it, the way the body settles further into itself, the way the thoughts become a little more scattered, a little softer at the edges, like shapes seen through water. This is where we are going. This is exactly right. The human capacity for hope is one of the most interesting and least expected traits in our biology. Hope is not naive. It is actually associated with better problem solving, greater persistence, and more creative thinking. A hopeful person is not ignoring reality. They are holding a particular orientation toward possibility. The brain with hope is more motivated, more resourceful, more willing to try again. Hope is, in a functional sense, one of the most practical emotions the human mind produces. Gratitude has measurable effects on the nervous system. When you notice something good, genuinely notice it. Let it register. The brain releases small amounts of dopamine and serotonin. This is not a manipulation of the system. It is the system working as intended. The brain rewards attention to positive things because noticing them, the warmth of the blanket, the quiet of the room, the fact of being alive and breathing, was historically useful. Gratitude is, among other things, a biological function. The concept of beauty seems to be related to mathematical patterns that appear throughout the natural world. The spiral of a shell, the branching of a river delta, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. These follow a mathematical proportion called the golden ratio, which also appears in the proportions of the human face that are widely perceived as beautiful. Nature and beauty and mathematics all seem to be in conversation with each other, and the human brain was shaped in that conversation, tuned to notice these patterns and respond to them with something that feels like recognition. Fractal patterns, patterns that repeat at different scales. The way a fern has the same branching structure, whether you look at the whole fern or a single frond, are found throughout nature. Looking at fractals of certain dimensions has been shown to reduce physiological stress in humans. Trees, clouds, coastlines, snowflakes, these are fractal structures. The brain seems to find them easy to process, comfortable, aesthetically right. The natural world is full of patterns the eye was built to follow with pleasure. The human voice changes with emotion in ways that are immediately readable across different languages and cultures. Sadness slows and lowers the voice. Excitement quickens it. Fear tightens it. Warmth opens it. People from cultures with no shared language can reliably identify basic emotions from vocal tone alone. The voice is an emotional instrument, not just an information delivery system, but an expression of the inner life, a way the interior reaches outward into sound. Humans have what is called theory of mind, the ability to attribute thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and intentions to other people, to understand that their inner life may be different from yours. This develops around the age of 4 in children, and it is one of the cognitive foundations of empathy, morality, and social life. Understanding that another person's experience is real and particular to them, that they are not just a character in your story, but the protagonist of their own, is a profound and practically important piece of human cognition. The default assumption in early childhood is that what you know, everyone knows. Young children often speak of things as if the listener must already know what they're referring to. Part of growing up is learning that other people's knowledge, experience, and inner life may be different from yours, and learning to adjust for this, to communicate across that difference, to genuinely try to understand. The whole project of human communication is, in a sense, an ongoing attempt to bridge the gap between separate inner lives. Language development in children is one of the most rapid and remarkable cognitive events in the natural world. By age 3, a human child has typically mastered the basic grammatical structure of their native language without any formal instruction. They have not been taught the rules. They have absorbed them from patterns in the speech around them. The brain of a young child is exquisitely attuned to language, extracting structure from sound at a rate that decreases as the brain matures. The first years of life are, in terms of language learning, the most powerful window there is. Musical ability shows up very early in human development. Babies respond to music before they are born, rhythmic sound reaching them in the womb. Newborns show preferences for melodies they heard while in utero. The human system was prepared for music before it even arrived in the world. There is something moving about that. The idea that the very first sounds of existence may already be shaping the first aesthetic preferences, the first emotional responses, the first forms of what will become a life's relationship with sound. And this, all of this, is why stories and music and voices at bedtime feel like such a natural thing. The body has always been here, ready for this. If this kind of night feels right to you, leave a little note for us in the comments. We love hearing from people who rest here. And if there are science topics you'd love to explore in future stories, we'd love to know. Humans are capable of changing their minds. This sounds simple, but it is not. True belief revision, genuinely updating a deeply held view in the face of new evidence, requires cognitive flexibility, intellectual humility, and something like courage. The brain has a tendency toward confirmation bias, seeking information that reinforces existing beliefs and minimizing information that challenges them. Working against this tendency is possible, and it is one of the more effortful and admirable things a human can choose to do. Intellectual humility, knowing what you don't know, holding your views with appropriate uncertainty, remaining genuinely open, is associated with better learning outcomes, better relationships, and greater well-being. The most effective learners are not those who are most certain, but those who are most willing to be wrong. There is something restful about that idea. The permission to not have everything figured out, to let the questions live alongside you without demanding answers tonight. Humans are unique in their awareness of their own mortality. The knowledge that life ends, that time is finite, that the people you love will not always be here, that you yourself will not always be here, is something human beings carry with them through every day. This is not a comfortable thing to carry, but it also seems to be one of the sources of human depth. The ability to love knowing it is temporary, to find beauty in things precisely because they pass, to appreciate the extraordinary fact of being alive because you know it is not forever. The philosopher Heidegger called this awareness being toward death, a defining feature of human existence. But what strikes me more gently than his philosophy is the simple fact that the human capacity for love and the human awareness of loss are not separate things. They are woven together. The ache of love is partly the knowledge that what is loved is not permanent. And the sweetness of a moment is often sharpest when you know it will pass. That particular human tenderness, loving things because they are temporary, is one of the most quietly beautiful things about being what we are. Tonight, this is enough. You have carried a full day. You have been someone with thoughts and feelings and a life that is entirely your own. Let the day go now, gently, like a breath you no longer need to hold. The body is very heavy now, or very light. Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference as sleep approaches. The mind is beginning to drift, reaching for images, for the soft associations that come before true dreaming begins. Let it go wherever it wants to go. You are safe. The night is long and generous. Humans developed agriculture about 10,000 years ago, a very recent event in the long span of human existence. For roughly 200,000 years before that, humans lived as hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons and resources. The transition to agriculture changed everything: diet, settlement patterns, social structures, population density, the relationship between humans and other species. But the body that sits at a modern desk or lies in this bed is still largely the body shaped by those 200,000 years of moving, foraging, resting under open skies. The human gut has not fully adapted to some of the foods that agriculture introduced, particularly refined grains and large quantities of sugar, which were rare before farming. The microbiome, so complex and influential, was shaped over long periods by a great variety of plant fibers, fermented foods, and seasonal diversity. Modern understanding of gut health often points back toward this kind of variety. The acknowledgement that the gut evolved in a diverse, changing, seasonal food environment. The human genome contains segments of ancient viral DNA, remnants of viral infections that affected our ancestors so long ago that the viral material was incorporated into our genetic code and has been passed down ever since. About 8% of the human genome is made up of these ancient viral sequences. Some of them appear to serve useful functions. Certain proteins involved in the development of the placenta, for example, seem to have been adapted from this ancient viral material. You carry the echoes of ancient infections inside you, quietly repurposed into the architecture of life. The human body has roughly 600 muscles. They work constantly. Even in stillness, they maintain tone, make micro-adjustments, hold the body in its posture. Even now, lying still, small muscles along the spine are doing quiet work. The tongue is a muscle, always making small movements. The heart is a muscle, never stopping. Muscles are the engines of motion and the anchors of stillness, always present, always slightly working, always alive. Bone is living tissue. It is not inert, not simply a scaffold. It is continuously broken down and rebuilt by two types of cells, osteoclasts and osteoblasts, that work in a careful balance throughout life. The entire human skeleton is replaced, cell by cell, roughly every 10 years. The bones you have now are not the same bones in the same material that you had a decade ago. They are newer, rebuilt from the minerals you have eaten and the forces your movements have placed on them. You are, in a very literal sense, continuously becoming. The liver performs over 500 different functions in the body. It filters blood, processes nutrients, produces bile for digestion, makes proteins, stores energy, breaks down hormones, and clears toxins. It is one of the few internal organs that can regenerate. If a significant portion is removed, the liver can grow back to its full size. In ancient Greek mythology, Prometheus was punished by having his liver eaten by an eagle each day, only to have it grow back overnight. Someone, thousands of years ago, noticed that the liver regenerates. That observation, embedded in story, carried down through millennia. The kidney filters about 45 gallons of blood per day, reclaiming almost all of it, and producing roughly 1 to 2 quarts of urine containing waste products. It maintains the precise balance of water, salts, and acidity in the blood that allows everything else to function. When you drink water, enough water, clean water, you are giving this quiet, ceaseless filter the material it needs to do its work. The simplest acts of care for the body turn out to have quiet depth. The lungs have a total surface area, when fully unfolded, of roughly 70 square meters, about the size of a tennis court. This enormous surface is folded into the space of your chest in hundreds of millions of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Each breath carries oxygen across this surface into the blood and removes carbon dioxide. The breath you are taking right now, slow and easy, is moving across that extraordinary surface, doing the most fundamental exchange the body knows. The rhythm of breath connects to the rhythm of the nervous system more directly than almost any other voluntary action. You cannot choose to slow your heart directly, but you can choose to slow your breath, and the heart will follow. This is the physiological basis of almost every relaxation practice. The breath is the handle. It is accessible, voluntary, always present. You have, in every moment, a direct means of signaling to your nervous system, everything is well. We are not running. We are not in danger. We can rest. Right now, without any effort, your body is breathing you. You don't have to manage it. You can simply observe, with the lightest of attention, the rise and fall, the small pause at the top of the breath, the release, the small pause at the bottom. This is always happening. This rhythm has been with you since the first breath, and it will continue now as you sleep. It does not need you to watch it, but watching it gently for a moment is one of the quietest kindnesses you can offer yourself. And if this quiet, these breathing words, this soft exploration of what you are, if it means something to you, we'd truly love to hear from you. A comment, a like, a word about what brought you here tonight. This little channel is built on exactly these moments. The capillaries, the smallest blood vessels in the body, are so narrow that red blood cells must pass through them in single file. If all the blood vessels in the human body were laid end to end, they would stretch about 60,000 miles, more than twice the circumference of the Earth. And inside you, right now, this entire quiet network is moving, carrying, sustaining. The body in rest is the same body that built this network, that maintains it, that uses it for the gentle work of keeping you alive through the night. The human eye can detect a single photon of light under ideal conditions. The retina contains about 125 million rod cells, which detect light and dark, and 6 million cone cells, which detect color. The fovea, the small central region of the retina, has the highest density of cone cells and produces the sharpest central vision. But peripheral vision, which is less detailed, is more sensitive to movement. The eye was built to both see clearly and to stay alert to what moves at the edges. Even in stillness, the eyes know what to look for. Closed now, your eyes are at rest. The visual cortex, which processes roughly a third of all sensory information in a waking brain, is quieting. The world made of shapes and colors and faces is being folded away for the night. What remains in the visual field of sleep is something different. The images the brain makes for itself, the soft lights and shapes of hypnagogia, then the full bloom of dream. Let yourself go toward that. There is nothing left to understand tonight. There is only the slow dissolving of the day into the long, dark, generous pool of sleep. You are very close now. The thoughts, if they come, are gentler, less like arguments and more like clouds, shapes that shift and dissolve before they have fully formed. This is the natural direction. Let the thinking soften. Let the words from here be just sound and warmth. Humans have developed writing, and through writing, a kind of immortality has become possible, not of the body, but of the mind. The thoughts of a person who lived 2,000 years ago can still arrive in your mind as you read, still move you, still provoke a response. The distance between you and a writer who lived centuries before you collapses when you read their words. This is one of the stranger and more beautiful things about human existence, that the inner life of the dead can still live in the living. Libraries are, in a sense, the most human of all structures. They are not for shelter or for food. They are for the preservation of mind. The ancient library of Alexandria, which held perhaps 500,000 scrolls, was described by those who knew it with something like awe, a place where the knowledge of the known world was gathered in one place. What it felt like to walk through it, surrounded by the stored thoughts of generations. That feeling is accessible to anyone who has ever walked into a great library and felt it. The stillness there is different from other stillness. It is a populated stillness. The invention of writing is only about 5,000 years old. Before that, everything was oral, spoken, sung, performed, memorized. The Homeric epics were oral poems memorized and transmitted by wandering storytellers before they were ever written down. Every culture has this oral tradition. The knowledge and stories kept alive in voice and memory passed from mouth to ear to mouth. The written word captured this river and gave it a different kind of permanence. But the original river was made of breath and sound. Human memory works best with story, information embedded in narrative, with characters, cause and effect, a beginning and an end, is retained far better than information presented as a list. This is true even for abstract or technical information. The brain is a story processing machine at its core. When something is told as a story, it enters through many doors at once, visual, emotional, causal, and settles into more places in the memory. Every good teacher has always known this. The hippocampus is the brain region most associated with the formation of new memories. It is also crucial for spatial navigation, for the mental maps we carry of the world. London taxi drivers, who must memorize a labyrinthine city in extraordinary detail, show enlarged hippocampi compared to controls. This is one of the clearest demonstrations of neuroplasticity in adults, evidence that the brain, even in adulthood, physically reshapes itself in response to intensive, sustained learning. Your memories of this night will form and consolidate as you sleep. Not as a recording. Memory is not recorded, but reconstructed, but as a kind of trace, an impression, a residue of what tonight felt like. Tomorrow, you may not remember specific words, but something may remain. The quality of the rest, the feeling of having been somewhere soft, the sense of having let something go. Memory keeps what the body needed to keep. Humans are capable of forming new habits and of breaking old ones, though it is never quite as fast or simple as the popular wisdom suggests. Habits are, neurologically, pathways that have been used often enough to become default routes. The brain's way of freeing up attention by automating familiar behaviors new habits form, as new pathways are established through repetition. There is something hopeful in this. The brain is always available for new routes. The capacity for change is always present. Small, consistent actions have outsized effects on the brain over time. This is because the brain responds not to grand gestures but to patterns. A small thing done daily, a few minutes of calm, of movement, of kind attention to yourself or someone else, accumulates in the neural architecture in ways that sporadic large efforts do not. The brain is a creature of rhythm and repetition. It responds to what returns. The body is not a machine. It is an organism, which means it is inherently self-regulating, inherently oriented toward health and equilibrium when given what it needs. When you give it rest, it repairs. When you give it nourishment, it thrives. When you give it movement, it strengthens. When you give it connection and calm, it settles. You do not have to do anything more than remove the obstacles. The body, given space, moves toward its own health. Tonight is part of that. This quiet, this warmth, this slow breath. This is care. You are taking care of yourself right now simply by staying here, by letting the day be done, by giving your brain and body the rest they are asking for. There is nothing more required. What you are doing right now is enough. And if this kind of gentle evening has been something you valued, we would love to keep bringing it to you. The Sleepy Science Channel playlist is full of nights like this one. Find it when you're rested. And if the mood takes you, a small like or comment lets us know you were here. The human experience of time is elastic. Time seems to pass slowly when you are bored, quickly when you are engaged, and variably in memory. A week of vacation may be remembered as longer than a month of routine, because more distinct memories were formed. Sleep disrupts the continuity of time perception. You close your eyes, and then it is morning, with no apparent gap. This interruption in the flow of time is one of sleep's strangest gifts. The night passes without you having to carry it. Every human being alive today is descended from a surprisingly small group of ancestors. Genetic analysis suggests that all humans alive share a common female ancestor who lived in Africa roughly 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. She is sometimes called mitochondrial Eve, not because she was the only woman alive at the time, but because her mitochondrial DNA, passed from mothers to children, is the source of all the varieties we carry today. You are, in this specific and genetic sense, connected to every human being on Earth. The diversity you see in human faces and bodies across the world is genetically tiny. Humans are one of the least genetically diverse species on Earth, despite appearances. The differences between any two randomly chosen humans are far smaller than the differences between two chimpanzees from the same forest. What looks like enormous diversity in humans is the result of a relatively small number of genetic variations affecting highly visible traits, like skin color and facial features. Beneath the surface, we are remarkably similar. We are also remarkably recent. Homo sapiens has been on Earth for roughly 200,000 years. The dinosaurs were here for over 160 million years. Even our more immediate ancestors, the hominins who preceded us, walked this earth for millions of years before modern humans appeared. In the context of Earth's history, we are very new. The planet was ancient before we arrived. And yet, in our brief time here, we have reshaped it more than any species since the first photosynthesizing organisms changed the chemistry of the atmosphere billions of years ago. Something shifts as we go deeper into the night. The air feels different. The quiet has a texture now, soft and thick and full of peace. Let your breath find its own rhythm. Let your thoughts become unimportant. You're only here, only this. Language changes continuously, not randomly, but in patterns that linguists can trace and predict. Words shift meaning over time. New words appear to name new things or experiences. Old words fade as the things they named disappear. The word nice once meant foolish. The word silly once meant blessed. Every word in every language has a history, a small story of travel and change. Language is alive in the same sense that the organisms it describes are alive, adapting, responding to its environment, carrying traces of where it has been. Some languages are endangered, spoken by only a handful of remaining native speakers, most of them elderly. When a language dies, an entire way of organizing human experience disappears with it. Languages are not just communication systems. They are ways of seeing, ways of categorizing the world, ways of knowing. The loss of a language is the loss of a perspective that evolved over thousands of years of a people living in a particular place, in relationship with a particular landscape. This is a quiet and significant kind of loss. The number of languages in the world peaked long ago and has been declining, but new words and new forms of language also arise constantly. Internet slang, specialized vocabularies, new terms that emerge from communities and spread outward. Language is not simply shrinking, it is also generating. The human capacity for language is not slowing down. It is changing form, finding new channels, adapting. Storytelling seems to have appeared in human culture around the same time as cave art, perhaps 40 to 60,000 years ago, or possibly much earlier. Before writing, stories were carried in the human voice and in the human body, in gesture and performance and song. Some researchers believe that storytelling was so central to human social life that it functioned as a kind of social technology, a way of transmitting values, norms, and knowledge across generations in a form the brain would retain. The hero's journey, a narrative pattern described by mythologist Joseph Campbell, appears in stories across human cultures separated by vast distances and deep time. The protagonist leaves the ordinary world, faces trials, and returns transformed. This pattern appears in ancient myths, in modern films, in children's stories, in religious narratives. It seems to resonate so deeply because it mirrors something about the inner life, the psychological movement from one state of self to another, the way growth requires a kind of departure and return. Dreams sometimes follow a similar structure. The movement into unfamiliar territory, the strangeness of the middle, the return to something like waking life. The dreaming brain may be running these narrative templates, rehearsing transformation, trying out stories that help make sense of what is happening in the emotional life. Even in sleep, the story-making does not stop. Even in sleep, the human mind is always reaching for meaning. There are parts of the human brain that have no clear counterpart in other species. Or, if there are counterparts, they are far less developed. Broca's area and Wernicke's area are regions involved in language production and comprehension, respectively. They are not present in the same form in any non-human primate. These are the neural homes of the thing that makes language possible. Not just sound production, but the linking of sound and meaning. The understanding that a sequence of sounds can stand for something in the world. The angular gyrus is a region of the brain involved in metaphor, in understanding that one thing can stand for another. Damage to this region disrupts the ability to use and understand metaphorical language. Metaphor is not a decoration on language. It is built into the neural architecture of understanding. When you say the sun is sinking, or time is flowing, or you are feeling heavy with tiredness, you are using your angular gyrus to bridge the literal and the figurative, the concrete and the abstract. You are always, in every sentence, making connections. Mathematics seems to emerge from the same deep structure. The intuition that 2 of something is different from 3 of something. This number sense appears to be present in some form, even in infants, even before language. But the capacity to build on that intuition, to create symbolic systems, to explore number into abstraction, that is something the human brain does in a way that remains uniquely, quietly extraordinary. Mathematics is the most abstract language humans have made, and it describes the physical world with uncanny precision. Why mathematics works so well to describe physical reality is itself still a question worth wondering about. You are, right now, a network of about 86 billion neurons, connected by roughly 100 trillion synaptic connections. The complexity of that network exceeds the number of stars in the Milky Way. And this network, through some mechanism that remains one of the deepest mysteries in science, produces the experience of being here, of hearing this voice, of feeling the weight of the covers, of knowing softly and without drama that you are alive and warm and resting. That is the most extraordinary fact in the known universe, and it is you. As always, if that wonder stirs something in you, leave a word for us below the video. This channel lives on small moments of connection just like this one. And check the playlist. There are more nights like this one waiting. The gut contains about 500 million neurons, more than in the spinal cord, connected to the brain by the vagus nerve. This is sometimes called the second brain, not because it thinks in the same way, but because it has its own complex neural processing and produces many of the same neurotransmitters found in the brain. Serotonin, for example, often associated with mood, is produced in large quantities in the gut. The relationship between what you eat, how your gut functions, and how you feel is deeper than simple nutrition. The immune system and the nervous system are in constant communication. Inflammatory signals from the immune system affect mood and cognition. This is why feeling ill often comes with a kind of mental fog and low mood, which researchers call sickness behavior. Conversely, chronic stress affects immune function. The mind and body do not have a clean border. They are one system in ongoing conversation, affecting each other continuously. Sleep is one of the most powerful tools available to both systems. It resets stress hormones, supports immune function, consolidates memory, clears metabolic waste, restores emotional regulation, and repairs tissue. There is very little that adequate sleep does not improve, and there is no supplement, no intervention, no technology that has been shown to reliably substitute for it. The body knows how to heal itself in sleep. You only need to give it the chance. Right now, you are giving it the chance. Something is happening in you that is entirely natural and entirely necessary and entirely good. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to manage it. It is already underway, almost entirely dark, almost entirely quiet, almost entirely asleep. Let the words come from further away now. Let them be just the sound of something warm nearby. Let your body go completely. You have done enough. You are enough. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Somewhere on Earth right now, a river is flowing into an ocean. Somewhere, the first light of morning is touching the tops of mountains. Somewhere, someone is waking. And somewhere, someone is arriving at this same edge where you are. The edge of sleep, warm and still. You're not alone in this. Across the world, in countless rooms and countless beds, people are letting the day go and sinking into the dark. You are part of something very wide and very human right now. The oldest living organism currently known is a clonal colony of quaking aspen trees in Utah, a single organism connected by a shared root system, estimated to be about 80,000 years old. It has been growing since before modern humans arrived in the Americas, since before the last ice age reached its maximum, trees holding roots through 80,000 winters. Something about that patience is almost impossible to hold in the mind, and trying to hold it is itself a kind of rest. The mind reaching for that scale becomes quiet in the reaching. The Pacific Ocean is so large that all the world's continents could fit inside it with room to spare. The deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench, goes down about 36,000 feet. At that depth, the pressure is over 1,000 times the pressure at sea level, and life exists there. Strange creatures adapted to conditions that would crush any surface organism, living in total darkness, in cold that barely moves, at pressures the human body cannot survive. Life finds its way into every available space, every available darkness. It is an extraordinary property of living systems that they inhabit whatever the world offers. The Antarctic ice sheet is up to 3 miles thick in places. It holds about 60% of the world's fresh water. Under the ice, there are liquid lakes, Lake Vostok the largest, that have been sealed from the surface for 15 to 25 million years. Whatever lives in those waters, if anything does, has been evolving in complete isolation for millions of years, in total darkness under miles of ice, in cold that hovers just above freezing. This is one of the most remote environments on Earth, and yet it may be inhabited. The soil beneath a meadow contains more living organisms per tablespoon than there are people on Earth. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, mites, springtails. A community of extraordinary complexity, doing the work of decomposition, of transformation, of returning the materials of life to the cycling system that life requires. Under every meadow, every forest, every garden, this community is working continuously, silently, in the dark. The world above ground depends entirely on what happens below it. There are places in the ocean where the water is so rich in nutrients, usually because of upwelling from the deep, that they support concentrations of life found nowhere else. These are sometimes called biological hotspots, places where whales gather, where thousands of seabirds nest, where fish school in numbers that seem improbable. The ocean is not evenly distributed with life. It pools in the rich places, the way people gather around warmth. The Milky Way is shaped like a flat spiral, and our solar system sits about 2/3 of the way out from the center in one of the spiral arms. It takes the sun about 225 million years to orbit the center of the galaxy, a period sometimes called the cosmic year or galactic year. The last time the solar system was in this same position in the galaxy, the first dinosaurs were just appearing on Earth. The time scales of the universe make the word patience seem insufficient. Your heart is roughly the size of your fist and sits a little left of center in your chest. You can sometimes feel its beat without touching yourself, a quiet knocking, steady and persistent, about 60 to 100 times per minute at rest. In a lifetime, the heart beats approximately 2.5 billion times. It does not rest the way other muscles rest. It takes its rest between beats, in the fraction of a second between one contraction and the next. Even the heart knows how to find rest within its rhythm. Your brain, in sleep, does not receive the sensory information it receives in waking life. The visual world is withdrawn. The sound of the environment is muted. The sensations of the body are held at arm's length. And into that reduced input, the brain projects its own activity, its own memories, its own symbols, its own strange narratives. Dreams are the brain talking to itself. They are what the mind looks like when there is nothing external to respond to. They are the interior turned outward, visible only from inside. And what is visible from inside you as you sink deeper, as the voice becomes just a sound, as the body becomes just a warmth? What is there? Only whatever has always been there. The quiet place that is not a thought, not a feeling, not a problem or a plan. The place where everything is simply present and not in need of anything. That is where sleep waits. That is where you are going. If this has been a gift of quiet to you, you're always welcome here. The Sleepy Science Channel is a small, warm place in the enormous internet, and knowing you were here tonight is its own kind of gift to us. The playlist is there whenever you want it, and if a comment comes in the night or in the morning, we'll be there to read it, grateful. The night is very long and very generous. The darkness outside is not empty. It is full of stars, of planets, of moving air and sleeping animals and the turning of the earth. All of this is happening softly and continuously while you lie still. You are part of it, not separate from it, not watching it from outside, but embedded in it, held by it, made of the same materials, breathing the same air, subject to the same gravity. You are not a visitor in the world. You belong here deeply and completely. Something about that belonging, the fact of it, the quiet certainty of it, can settle everything. You belong to this night. You belong to this body. You belong to this life. You don't have to earn any of it, or justify it, or protect it. It is simply and entirely yours. Let that go all the way in. The last thought, before no more thoughts, just this, that you are something the universe made to notice itself, and what the universe chose to notice, looking through your particular eyes at your particular life, was worthy of attention. You were worth making. The world is richer for containing you. And now, the world, which has been carrying you all day, is asking only one thing. Let it carry you through the night as well. Close your eyes. The story will finish itself in dreams. This is the last part now, the softest, the most quiet. There are no more facts to learn tonight, no more wonders to lift and turn in the light. There is only this: the warmth of being here, the gentle weight of the covers, the darkness behind your closed eyes, the sound of something like a voice, very far away now, like a voice heard through the wall of sleep. You are extraordinary, not in a way that requires you to do anything or prove anything or perform anything. Extraordinary in the way all living things are extraordinary, in the sheer improbable fact of existing, of being here, of having a heart that beats and lungs that breathe and a mind that wonders. The universe had to arrange a very great many things just exactly right for you to be here, and it did. And here you are. You are made of atoms forged in the hearts of stars that existed before the earth was born. The iron in your blood was formed in stellar nucleosynthesis, in the fusion reactions of dying stars that scattered their material into space, where it slowly gathered into a new solar system, into a planet, into the first cells, into everything that followed until finally, and probably, here you are. You are made of stardust that learned to feel. You carry inside you the history of 4 billion years of life, in the structure of your cells, in the chemistry of your metabolism, in the ancient reflexes your body still runs. You are continuous with everything that has ever lived. The first cell that ever divided gave rise eventually to you. That is not poetry. That is biology. And it is as true as anything you know. You are unique, not one of 7 billion near-identical copies, but a specific configuration of experience and memory and body and voice and feeling that has never existed before and will never exist again. The combination of who you are, your particular history, your specific way of seeing, the precise weight and quality of your life, is unrepeatable. The world received something new when you arrived, and it will be different when you go. You have known kindness. You have felt warmth. You have been moved by something beautiful, maybe by music or a view, or the face of someone you love, or by a small thing glimpsed at the right moment. Those moments are yours fully and forever. They are stored somewhere in the architecture of who you are, and sleep will not take them. They will be there in the morning. Whatever this day held, whatever was hard or unresolved, or heavier than you wanted it to be, you're allowed to set it down, not to fix it tonight, not to solve it or dismiss it, but simply to set it down beside the bed and leave it there until morning. It will wait. It is very patient, and you will be better equipped to meet it after rest. The night is long, the body is heavy, the breath is slow. Everything you need for sleep is already here, already in you, already working, already pulling you under in the kindest possible way. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to try. Sleep is not something you achieve. It is something that happens when you allow it, and you are allowing it now. Let the voice be very far away. Let the words be sounds without meanings. Let the sounds be just warmth. Let the warmth be just existence. Let existence be just this: a breath in and a breath out, and the long, soft dark between them. If you find yourself here again tomorrow night, or some other night when the mind is loud and the body is tired, we will be here. The Sleepy Science Channel will be here with more soft truths about the extraordinary world, more quiet wonders, more nights like this one. The playlist is always there. And if you leave us a word before you sleep, a comment, a small like, you become part of this little gathering of people who rest here. We are grateful for every one of you. But for now, no more words, no more needs. Only the warmth of the dark and the long, slow breath and the knowledge that you are safe and held and wonderfully, quietly, entirely yourself. Good night.